In this video, I'm going to provide all the information needed to understand the Paladin base class. Before I get into this video, however, I want to make you aware of an additional adjustment to the format of these class videos, as was suggested by a colleague of mine who's been critiquing these videos for me. I will be breaking the base class video into multiple parts. The first part will provide the description of the class and the various class specializations one can take for it, while the remaining parts will cover the creation and leveling of the character itself, and then we'll branch off into the additional class specialization videos. Please let me know if you prefer this new format over my previous formats, and if not, let me know your thoughts so that I can consider them and possibly incorporate them into the next set of videos. So let's get back to describing what the Paladin class is. This will include a general idea of what a Paladin is, what kind of player will enjoy this type of character, the various class features, and a brief description of the class specializations. The Paladin is the quintessential fighter who believes in a cause and swears an oath to uphold that cause in hopes of righting wrongs they felt were unjust. As part of their oath, they are granted a limited ability to cast clerical spells to help them achieve those particular goals. Most paladins are still bound to a given religion within the world your character will exist in, and this supports those spellcasting capabilities as they progress through their levels. However, unlike past editions of Dungeons & Dragons, the gods do not take as direct an interest in a given paladin and defer to the leadership of the religious or knightly order to ensure their paladins remain bound to their oaths. In the past, a god usually assigned a paladin their holy quest, which was usually obtained at level 1 and followed them through to their levels until the DM provided an adventure to finish off that particular quest. This could occur early on to allow the DM's main campaign to continue with little interruption, or after the major campaign has been completed. However, it's also possible that the Dungeon Master will interweave that holy quest right into the main campaign that they're putting the rest of the party through, sort of giving your character a little bit of a special punch, if you will, when it comes to that particular campaign. In 5th edition, this changes a bit in that the quest is provided by the leadership of the order the paladin is a member of, or by the character themselves based on some event they observed or took part of. With this edition, it is generally assumed the paladin saw or was the victim of something that went against their beliefs so profoundly that they took up a holy quest to set things right. This is what forms the oath that guides your character, and it should be well known in advance when you create your character. This is because the oath will fall under one of several types, and those types link pretty much directly into the various class specializations that are available, thus guiding your overall selection as to which one you might be taking. For the most part with this edition, your holy quest and your oath are one and the same, and will act as the root of your character's overall persona. There is, however, one exception to that list, and they are called anti-paladins. In this case, they are a class specialization of the paladin itself who has broken their oath to work towards some evil or ambitious goal that is completely counter to what they initially believed in. It could also mean that they are still following their beliefs, but they no longer care about how destructive they are in achieving that particular goal, thus breaking their oath in the end. Some examples could be that they were corrupted by an evil organization that went counter to their beliefs and they were somehow swayed to join within that particular organization, or that their overall sense of justice has been corrupted in some way, shape, or form, and as a result, they're being liberal with their slaughter in trying to achieve their end goal. And it could also mean that your character has become totally disillusioned in their beliefs and now works towards some personal ambition that is neither righteous nor beneficial to anyone except themselves. As a DM, I will require your character's oath to be thoroughly defined and ensure it aligns with the class specialization you're intending to take. And there are a couple of reasons for this. The first is that I will be monitoring your character quite closely between levels 1 through 3, and as long as the character has remained true to their oath, they will be able to initiate their holy quest to unlock that class specialization at level 3. If, however, they have failed to remain true to their oath for some reason, they will be then required to take the Anti-Paladin class specialization. However, the only way they would really get pushed into that class specialization is if they had done something that shifted their alignment into one of the various evil alignments. The catch is, I might wait until they have completed their holy quest before allowing the player to apply the third level, which is the level a given class specialization is chosen for the Paladin. This is because if at any time they have broken their oath that has shifted their alignment, they will be required to take the Oathbreaker specialization, which is essentially the anti-Paladin. I would also like to point out that with the Oathbreaker class specialization, you are not limited to being level 3, but it does require you to be at least level 3. This means that at some later point, as you level your character up, you could be put into a situation or have made a choice that has shifted your alignment towards evil. At this point, your character would be required to convert to the Oathbreaker specialization. This essentially means you will be remaking your character a second time and leveling that character up to match your current level. But when you hit level 3, you will be selecting the Oathbreaker specialization. And this is because when you have broken your oath, you lose all of your existing abilities. And that's not easy to do within Fantasy Grounds without going through and recreating your character itself. The second reason is that as a DM, I will need to be able to plan their holy quest, and I need to be able to create one that will potentially challenge their oath in some way so that they are forced to make a choice to remain true to their oath or to break it. It also gives me a means to work that quest into the overall campaign so that the transition is relatively seamless and so it appears to be directly tied to the campaign in question. So let's move on to what those class specializations are. The Paladin is one of the few classes that starts with 4 class specializations provided by the player's handbook or the Dungeon Master's Guide. 3 of those are provided by the player's handbook, which are the Oath of Devotion, the Oath of the Ancients, and the Oath of Vengeance. While the Dungeon Master Guide provides the Oathbreaker class specialization, and I will get into a brief description of each of those a little later in this video, as I still need to cover a few concepts specific to the Paladin itself. The first of those concepts relates to the rewards a Paladin will generally strive to obtain, alongside the retention of their oath, and that is their Holy Avenger sword. Unlike older editions of Dungeons & Dragons, the sword no longer requires a lawfully good alignment, and instead simply requires attunement. This means that if you somehow acquired your Holy Avenger sword before you somehow managed to break your oath, your sword remains attuned to you and you don't lose the ability to use it. It is also no longer just a longsword, but also includes the greatsword, rapier, scimitar, and short sword variants that all provide the same attributes. This means it's now possible for other races who might face weapon-related restrictions a means to gain access to a sword that works within those limitations. These swords are still rare, but it is feasible for one to be provided as a reward during their holy quest, and an affirmation that they stuck to their oath. However, one must keep in mind that a Holy Avenger is most likely going to be the only sword they will acquire for the rest of their character's life, as it is considered a very powerful magical weapon and does provide an additional feature for the Paladin at a later level. I will not describe those features, as I still want a Paladin character to have to go through the process of learning what those abilities are as they attune to the sword in question. In relation to the next concept, it is around the backgrounds that best suit a Paladin. The quick build suggests that a Paladin should come from a noble or noble knight background, but I would argue it is feasible for a Paladin to also come from the acolyte, soldier, or folk hero backgrounds that are provided by the player's handbook. Additionally, there are other supplements that also might provide a few backgrounds that could also work. The reason I offer these options is as follows. In relation to the acolyte, it's possible your character was orphaned at an early age and was cloistered in a temple for most of their life. As a result, your oath may deal with religious convictions of some kind, and your character was trained to honor those convictions by the temple guards. thus becoming a paladin. The soldier background would apply because your character could have been involved in a battle or saw atrocities that defined your oath, and through your training you stood by your convictions that were noticed. As a result, your character might have been recruited into a different regiment that had the same convictions as you, and thus gave your character the training they needed to start on the paladin's path. Finally, as the folk hero, your character could have been involved in saving a village that was under attack, or was the sole survivor of a family that as a result of a raid, was totally decimated. It is something that would make your character unique enough to fit within this background, and at the same time define your oath. As a result, your character would have worked towards goals that might have brought the perpetrators to justice, and as a result, your actions gained you some recognition and thus were recruited into a local organization that led you towards becoming a paladin. As for the class specializations themselves, I will only provide a general idea as to what they represent here, as there will be more detail provided about them in the subsequent videos I plan to release in relation to each of them. The Oath of Devotion is generally made up of paladins who hold themselves to the highest standards and expect others to do the same. Your character will constantly be judging their own actions against their oath to ensure they remain loyal to it, while at the same time judging other parties to the same standard. This type of paladin will trigger some level of friction within a party due to that level of judgment, and will look down upon those who are deemed unworthy. The Oath of the Ancients is generally made up of paladins who deal with the overall cosmic struggle of light versus dark and act as protectors. They will always head towards a battle that involves good versus evil and will work towards besting evil in any way possible. But when the battle is over, they may choose to pray for their enemies' souls when victorious. The Oath of Vengeance is generally used by characters who have sworn to bring a person or organization to justice in retaliation for atrocities they may have committed that were witnessed or heard by the character. They will try their best to bring these people to justice, but won't hesitate to kill them in self-defense if it's required. In my experience, this is the most common form of paladin. The last oath provided by the base modules, in this case by the Dungeon Master's Guide, is the Oathbreaker, and these paladins are generally considered fallen when they break their oaths. While I can't think of anyone specific who would work as this example, these kinds of characters include those who fought for good at one point in their life, but then went completely against their oath, thinking they were still on the righteous path, even though it meant the death of innocents to reach their goal. And thus, we complete part 1 of this particular class. The next video will include the creation and configuration of a Paladin class character to help explain how their skills, features, and abilities work. A subsequent video will then walk us through leveling that character through the Paladin class up to level 20. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.